everybody. This is me. And, you know, this band, they always make me feel like a rock star. They are so great. I love it. The first time I came on this stage with Loren's group, it was just a flatbed trailer and a couple of hay bales to step up there. And look at us now. You know, the Republican Party is the real deal, and we are going to prevail this year. We are. I love it. So I got in this race because of forest fires. I grew up in Washington, down on the Columbia River at a salmon hatchery, and I became a biologist. I had all kinds of jobs in the natural resource industry, and you can look those up on my website. I'm not going to go into them right now, but I got to do so many fun things as a biologist and later as a power manager because I got a solid education when I was young. I went to a school with only 8 kids in my class, but because we had timber in our county of Skamania, we had the best schools. Those timber sales were taxed, and the taxes went to our school districts and our county, which is what we're supposed to be doing, and it says that in our state constitution. So, right, I know, since 1889. But for some reason, we've stopped logging. I can tell you what I think the reasons are. We got on this environmental path, you might say, and the northern spotted owl was endangered. We just started shutting down our timber industry. And now we have forests that were planned for harvest, but they didn't get harvested, they didn't get cut. So they just got bigger and bigger. Many of our trees in our forests, in our public lands, should have been harvested 15 or 20 years ago. And because we stopped managing our lands, they're getting too big and too close, too crowded, too diseased, and boy, when they catch on fire, they burn like crazy. They burn hotter than any fires we've had in the past, which is why they can't put them out. They just burn too hot, and they spread, and it's just a total mess. I went to Eastern Washington, and I visited the Okanagan area that was so badly burned, and I'm telling you, it was super depressing and just tragic. And I truly believe this could have been prevented if we had kept managing our lands. So, thank you. I appreciate that. So, my goal is to start doing, my opponent wants to do a 10-year and 20-year plan to, you know, start working on cleaning up our underbrush and thinning out our trees, but I want to start yesterday. And I have a few good ideas. I'm looking for more ideas from anybody who wants to share them with me, but you know, I'm just going back to what's quick and easy and cheap. Fire breaks. The pioneers used to drag a plow around a town or a farm, get down to the dirt, and that stops or slows down a fire at least, and people have a little time to fight the fire. Our forests are now blankets of trees. Instead of clearings here and a little spacing over there, they took out most of the logging roads. So, and they let the clear cuts grow up to big trees. So it's just a blanket of forest. Well, that means when a forest fire starts, it just keeps going and going and going. So I'd like to break our forests into segments with fire breaks around each segment so that if a fire starts in one segment, it doesn't burn up the entire hundreds of thousands of acres. Thank you. That's so simple, right? And then another idea, a citizen came to me with an idea of using a bunch of surplus cargo planes that the Air Force has sitting in Arizona. He said those could be fitted with water tanks, and then you just fly over a fire, and instead of pouring 1,000 gallons of water on that fire from a helicopter, you can spread 30 or 40,000 gallons of water. Just put the whole thing out in one pass. And I think that's a great idea. So I just want us all to think outside the box and stop this madness, because it is urgent, it's an emergency, it can't just keep going on. So I love seeing all of you here. I'm so excited for November 3rd to come around, and I think we're going to do great. Be sure to vote Republican, because we have lots of good candidates, and I know you want to hear from one of the best, which is Loren Culp, who will be out here soon. So I don't want to take more of your time. Thank you so much. Good to see you all.
We have another double header right now, so our next speaker coming up, he came all the way here today from Puyallup, and he's actually a very terrific speaker. You guys are in luck. He is your chairman of the Washington State Republican Party. He lives in Culp with his wife and 2 kids. You guys put your hands together for Mr. Caleb Heimlich.
Good afternoon, everybody. How's everybody doing? It is great to be here with all of you. Thank you so much for coming out. I've got one quick question as we get started. Who here voted for Loren Culp in the primary? Who here is going to vote for him in November? And most importantly, who's going to make sure 5 or 10 of your friends come with you and vote for Loren so we can elect a Republican governor for the first time in my lifetime, which is sad. Well, my name's Caleb Heimlich. I'm the chairman of the Washington State Republican Party. I was born in Puyallup, not too far from here, right? Let's hear it for Puyallup. When my dad's a pastor, so it's great to be here to church. Thank you to Harborview for hosting us. Let's give them a round of applause. This is awesome. So my dad was a pastor, and when I was 12 years old, he said, look, if you want to spend money, you need to go make some money. So I started mowing lawns in the neighborhood, and he taught me early on the value of hard work, which is something that I think is sorely lacking in Washington State under our current government. It's something we want to restore. I had the great privilege of going to Hillsdale College, which is where I got my degree. When I was at Hillsdale, there was a required class on the Constitution. Wouldn't it be great if all of our politicians were required to take a class on the Constitution and defend our constitutional rights? And that's why this year, as the chair of the Republican Party, I am so excited to be here, to be supporting Loren Culp for governor. I've had a lot of fun traveling the state. We were in Enumclaw last weekend. I've been with Wenatchee, Tri-Cities, Walla Walla. Been all over with Loren and his great band and the crew. And there is so much excitement building across the state to really change Washington. And it couldn't come any sooner. We are desperate for change here in Washington State. And it's definitely not enough just to vote for Loren Culp. We have great Republicans running up and down the ticket. You just heard from Sue. Be sure to vote for Elizabeth Kresselmeyer for Congress so we can get rid of Derek Kilmer and fire Nancy Pelosi. She can go to as many hair salons as she'd like, even if they're closed, as long as she's not the Speaker of the House anymore. And we need to elect Matt Larkin to be our next Attorney General and fire Bob Ferguson. He needs to go. And obviously, as I said, Sue Pederson, we need to restore our land management. We need to re-elect Kim Eyman to make sure our elections stay fair. And we need to vote, there's 2 really important ones. Vote for Maya Espinosa for Superintendent of Public Instruction. Love Maya. And we need to fire Chris Reichdahl. He was the one behind that absurd comprehensive sex ed bill starting in kindergarten. So it's a nonpartisan race, but we need to get rid of Chris Reichdahl. We need to elect Maya Espinosa. We need to reject R90 to keep parents in charge of what is taught to our kids. I have a 6-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter. And because of that bill, we're homeschooling my son this year for 1st grade, because I am not okay with my son learning that. That should be up to my wife and I to talk to him about those types of issues. And then we need to vote for Dave Larson for state Supreme Court. Dave is a great candidate. He believes in the Constitution. It would be nice to have one of our 9 justices on the state Supreme Court that believe in the Constitution. So be sure to vote for Dave Larson. Speaking of judges, how about Amy Coney Barrett, or Coney Barrett? I am so proud of President Donald Trump nominating not 1, not 2, but 3 constitutional judges to the United States Supreme Court. That's the type of executive leadership that is making our country great, and we can make Washington great by getting Loren Culp in there and getting Jay Inslee out. A couple weeks ago, I had the distinct honor of going to the White House. I was there at the White House when President Trump accepted the Republican nomination for president. For a kid from Puyallup, that was about the highest honor I could have, right? Let's hear it for our president. He's done a great job. But coming out of the White House, I was leaving with a good friend of mine who is the chair of the Tennessee Republican Party. And I don't know if you saw what happened that Thursday night leaving the White House with all the mobs and the chaos. People assaulted Rand Paul. Fortunately, nobody recognizes me, so they didn't assault me. But we were walking to our hotel, and we were coming through some kind of thick mobs, and people are yelling and taunting us. And my friend, the Tennessee chair, his eyes are super big. He's like, man, this is crazy. We're all alone. We get back to the hotel. He said, that was nuts. I've never seen anything like that. I said, buddy, you got to come to Seattle. You got to come to Portland. It takes courage. The point of that story is it takes courage to be a Republican in Washington State. And I applaud each and every one of you for being out here today, for standing for your values, for standing for freedom, standing for the First Amendment by even gathering today, and standing to restore Washington State. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for everything you're doing. I think there's a couple of key reasons why we have to get Loren Culp into office and Jay Inslee out. Number 1, comprehensive sex ed. We don't want that going forward. Number 2, we need a government that listens to the voters. How many people voted for $30 car tabs? Do you have $30 car tabs? That's because the government isn't listening to us. And what phase are we in now? Phase on indefinite pause? I mean, it seems like we're never moving forward. And the governor is refusing to call a special session in spite of Democrats, in spite of Republicans, in spite of everybody saying it's time to let the legislative body have a say and represent the will of the people. The governor is saying no. So we need a government that listens to the people. Number 3, we need competence. We need competence in office again. If you followed what happened in March, April, and May, we sent $650 million to a Nigerian scam ring from our unemployment insurance department, while 81,000 Washingtonians could not get the benefits they had paid into. This is all a fact. It's not made up. It sounds crazy, but it's true. We need a competent manager, and that's Loren Culp, not Jay Inslee. And maybe the pivotal issue of the 2020 election is we need to defend our law enforcement, not defund our law enforcement. Defunding the police is the stupidest idea I've ever heard of. We need to defund the city council and defund the politicians, but back our men and women in blue that are keeping our communities safe. And I know Loren Culp and Republicans up and down the ballot are going to fight to make sure we're funding our law enforcement. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for everything you're doing. We're committed over the next, it's only 5 weeks, folks, 5 weeks until this election that's going to decide a lot for the future of our country and the future of our state. So I'd ask you to do everything you can. Share the word on social media. Talk to your friends. Make sure everybody is registered to vote. Volunteer with the campaign. Volunteer with the state party. We have people making phone calls. We've made almost 750,000 phone calls to swing voters trying to get them to vote for Loren Culp and our Republicans up and down the ticket. Together, by working hard, we can win. We can keep America great, and we can make Washington State great again. So thank you very much for being here. God bless you all, and God bless Loren Culp.
And Apple.
Well, hey everybody, thanks very much for coming out. My name is Tim Eyman, but I'm here for Loren Culp. you just take 30 seconds to watch this video. I'm very proud of it because it's all about Loren Culp. Guys, run it up.
My name is Tim Eyman, and I've been an initiative activist in the state of Washington for the last 22 years. And the reason our initiatives resonate with the voters is because we don't have elected leaders like Loren Culp at the head of our government willing to listen to us. Loren Culp is somebody that actually respects the will of the people. Whether it's the First Amendment, our Second Amendment rights, or even our $30 tabs, Loren Culp is willing to listen. Jay Inslee isn't. I strongly encourage you to get involved with the Loren Culp campaign for governor. He is going to be a breath of fresh air for the people of the state of Washington. Finally, once and for all, we're going to have an elected leader that's willing to listen to us and not insult us the way Jay Inslee has. Loren Culp for governor, I support him. I hope you do too.
So one more time, let's hear it for Loren Culp. But just to be totally fair, can I please hear from all the pro-Inslee people? I'm at the right rally. I'm at the right rally. Let's just call the election right now. Loren Culp for governor. When you think of the name Jay Inslee, what are some words that just pop into your head? Throw them out. Salty crowd today. Very salty crowd. My 12-year-old daughter, Riley, who's not here today, calls Inslee a snake. Calls him a snake. Now, when our president called him a snake, I thought it was hilarious. When my 12-year-old daughter does it, it's just flippin' cute. It's just cute. Now, we are so lucky to have Loren Culp as our candidate this November. The thing that I really admire about Loren Culp, the thing that I really am impressed with, is he kicked my butt. Wasn't even close. But I want the person that's going to kick Inslee's butt on the November ballot. Inslee just makes us so mad. It's sometimes a struggle to try and figure out what is it that just drives us the craziest. I still remember when he banned fishing and hunting. Do you remember that? 50 states in the union, 50 governors, and only one moronic governor that said, if you're sitting in a rowboat in the middle of a lake alone with a hook in the water, you were susceptible to COVID. But the rules literally said, if you're in a rowboat in the middle of a lake and there's no hook in the water, you were safe. Inslee is amazing. Every day he does something stupid. It's just maddening. I'm trying to think of something that he's done recently. There we go. Apples for the crowd. No maggots, people. No maggots. Right there. Oh, good catch. Good catch. Now, I'm from Yakima. Born and raised Yakima. That's apple country. And maybe we do things different over there, but generally speaking, giving away apples with maggots in them, not well received. Not well received. But with Jay Inslee, he does that kind of stuff. The thing I love about Loren Culp that's just amazing, I've never seen the guy take $1 billion and send it to Nigeria. Inslee sets the bar so low that that's an amazing accomplishment. Loren Culp, never has he sent $1 billion to Nigeria. Guy's amazing. I don't know why I think this is funny. I just do, and I'm just going to do this for a while. Seriously, maggot free. There it is. That's the guy with enthusiasm. I love it. The thing that is hard to take personally, though, and it's a really tough one for me, is our $30 tabs. We voted for it last November. It was just one of the greatest evenings that I had in November. I was there with my daughter. It was an amazing victory. We were very excited about it. Absolutely mind-blowing. But a couple days later, Jay Inslee said he would block it. And the reason he gave, he said the voters were confused. An initiative about a dollar amount was too confusing for Jay Inslee. It is absolutely maddening. But under Loren Culp, we will get our $30 tabs. The other thing I really admire about Loren Culp is he stood up to Bob Ferguson. Our Attorney General was trying to intimidate Loren Culp, and Loren Culp was standing up for our Second Amendment rights. Any Second Amendment people out there? Loren was standing up for the Constitution, and he was not going to let Bully Bob stop him from doing that. And I think that's something that bodes well, that when he's our governor, he will stand up to the other politicians and stand up for our rights. And a random arbitrary ticket has been handed to me. Go ahead. And it's a raffle. What am I giving away? A Culp hat. A Culp hat. There it is. We're going to do last four digits. Must be present to win. 0980. 0980. A hat and a maggot-free apple. There it is. I see hands over there. 0980. Make an effort. Make an effort. There it is. God, you guys suck. You guys are awful. 0980. 0980. You really want me to check it out there? Okay, let's see what we got, people. Yes! The reason I bring up Bob Ferguson is a somewhat selfish moment. I'm in the midst of an 8-year battle with our Attorney General where I'm trying to stand up to him as well. But it isn't about the Second Amendment, it's about the First Amendment. And he's been suing me for 8 years. And in his lawsuit, he's seeking a lifetime ban on all my future political activity in Washington. A lot of people don't believe it, but it is true that the stated purpose in the lawsuit is Mr. Eyman may not be politically active in the state of Washington for the rest of his life. So, if you get a chance, Bob Ferguson's lawyers, we all pay for those. I have to fundraise for my lawyers, and so if you could help me with my legal defense fund, I'd be so grateful. I have a trial in November. It's going to be an O.J. Simpson trial because it is Tim Eyman after all. The media will cover it extensively, but the only reason I'm still here is because thousands of people like Marlon Jensen and wonderful people from Gig Harbor have helped me be able to get to this stage where I can stand up to Bully Bob as well. I'm so grateful for you for that. But this is about Loren Culp. And I really want to emphasize this. Loren Culp is just a really, really good guy. We are really lucky to have somebody like him. I have never, in my 22 years of activism, ever seen a candidate be able to generate this much enthusiasm on a Sunday. Thousands of people. Let's hear it for Loren again. And the thing that's so neat about Loren is he knows that it's not just about him. It's about a team of people. He has an amazing team. He has Lisa right here that works her butt off. Chris Gergen, one of the greatest campaign managers you can imagine. It's a team effort. But there's this one person on the team is amazing. I mean, every single day, this guy wakes up and does things that just says, I want to get Loren Culp into the governor's mansion. This person every day is a new idea that makes us want to vote for Loren Culp. And that guy that's on his team is Jay Inslee. Campaign bumper stickers, I can visualize them. Loren Culp, he's not Jay Inslee. That might be enough. That might be enough for a lot of people. But the thing I really want to emphasize and close with this is that we are all on a beautiful Sunday, all here supporting Loren Culp. And I'm here with you, which makes us not very normal. This is not normal for us to do this. A beautiful day and we're out here talking politics. We need to reach out to all the normal people that are out there watching football and out there doing their thing, and reach out to them on Facebook, reach out to them on your email list. Get out there and interact with people. You can start with, he never sent $1 billion to Nigeria. He's a really, really good guy. Loren Culp served in the military, the 101st Airborne. Let's hear it for our veterans. The last thing, I really have to emphasize how stupid Inslee is, because there's so much to work with and it is a struggle. And one more apple with feeling. There it is. That's what I'm talking about. Good effort. Good effort. I remembered when the lockdown first started and he shut down all the restaurants. And one of my favorite representatives, Representative Jim Walsh, was with Inslee at this time. And when he made the announcement, Inslee was genuinely surprised that the restaurants laid off all their workers. And it had to be explained to him that we're not going to be getting customers, so therefore we can't employ these people, so we won't have money to pay them. And it did not register with him how the private sector works. And what I love about Loren Culp is that before he became a police chief in Republic, he owned a small business, a construction company, so he understands how the free market works. And the thing that I love the most about Loren Culp is he is not a professional politician. I am very, very honored to be part of the Culp team. I am on the Culp train. I am very, very happy to be able to travel the state, mostly with my daughter, being able to promote just an amazing man. We are so incredibly lucky to have him on the November ballot. Has anybody ever noticed how gutless Inslee is? Will not debate Loren Culp in person. He said it's not safe. It's not safe. Now, I'm dating myself right now, but I said he believes in data and science, and so I remember in the 70s, Get Smart, they had the cone of silence. And I said we could bring out the cone of silence in order to be able to make it safe for Jay to face off against Loren Culp. So I just want to say thank you again. Please leave here enthusiastic, excited, but don't forget that your job is to go out there and get even more people involved with this campaign. I am so happy, so proud to be here. An amazing band. Steve's so patient with me. He said, "Can you stay to 5 minutes?" And I just said, "No way." But I have so much fun doing this. Inslee's such a moron. I am just so happy to be out here highlighting how bad he is and how good Loren Culp is. I will pass it off to Steve. Thank you very much.
What? I need an apple. You have an apple. I love you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, put those hands together for Common Ground. Common Ground is going to exit the stage for our next speaker. This person grew up homeless in Tacoma, but rose up out of poverty to graduate valedictorian of his class and was accepted into the University of Notre Dame. Today, a software engineer in his real job, this person was appointed unanimously to the legislature back in 2014. He has been elected every election since and has risen quickly into an intellectual leader in the Republican Party. This is his home church where he and his family proudly attend and celebrate Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. Ladies and gentlemen, your senior representative from this 26th district, the only constitutional Christian conservative elected in the Puget Sound. Give it up for Jesse Young.
Thank you. You know, I was taught at a very early age that you always begin and lead with your strength. Well, my strength is my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Would you please bow your heads with me? Father, I just ask, well, first I want to thank you, Lord. I want to thank you for the blue sky. I can't see a cloud up there. I want to thank you for your providence in each and every one of our lives. I want to thank you for the flag that shines so brightly, for the freedom that we have, for all the people that have fought and died for our freedoms and our liberties. I want to thank you that even in an environment like this today, we can still come together and we can promote freedom. I want to thank you and specifically ask that you provide a blessing on the governor candidate, Loren Culp. Father, for the first time, I just want to thank you for the first time in my entire service as a legislator. I finally felt proud to have a true conservative governor candidate be able to come into my district and speak to our district with true conservative constitutional values that I know without a doubt will stand up for our liberties. So Father, in Jesus' name, I pray that you bless this entire crowd. I pray that you put a hedge of protection around Loren Culp and you help elect him into the governor's seat. In Jesus' name, amen. I love you guys, man. This is a great crowd. How many of you love the band? How many of you love the Culp songs? So right at the beginning when they were starting their set out earlier today, I just want to call out the drummer. I saw him, he flipped his right drumstick up and it landed down on the side right as a heavy beat came out. And I watched him literally double tap it with his left hand as he reached down. And do you remember? I saw you do it. And he recovered and got his drumstick back. It was amazing. I love these guys. You know, this is the type of service that leads to a red wave. This is the type of sacrificial service where guys like this get together. They come out for a candidate that they believe in. You have someone proudly and boldly say he's going to stand in the gap for you. And then this is what elects and makes a change in the state of Washington. Are you ready for a change? Well, so am I. Listen, I heard you guys start chanting for Culp a little bit ago. I'm not going to stand in your way of a lot of that, so I'm not going to go long. But let me just tell you something. The fight is real. We have the most progressive and hostile Speaker of the House that you have ever seen in the country. And she is the Speaker of the House, and her district is right on the other side of the bridge. Now let me tell you, this year she was a brand new Speaker, and we did two things in state history that have never happened before. For the first time in state history, we were able, from the minority standpoint, to protect your Second Amendment rights. They ran a bill that was going to take away your Second Amendment rights, and we led an effort that has never been done before. The day the bill was brought to the floor, they had all the votes. I had privately worked with a number of you, and I know a number of you are in the crowd today, and we ran over 100 amendments. Typically, the schedule they put us down there, they give us 2 minutes on the floor of the House to process a bill before we have to vote on it. 2 minutes, that's the average. Typically, we'll show up at 10 a.m. in the morning. They'll have a whole slew, they've got 1,000 bills that they can potentially pull from a committee. And then what they'll do is they'll say, hey, here are 15 bills, we're going to be on the floor voting in 30 minutes. Well, you do the math. That's 2 minutes per bill. That's the type of just top-down tyranny or tyranny that we have putting over us. And so they came to this bill. It gives us very little time. But I had prepared, and we dropped 100 amendments on a bill, which would effectively have taken them the remaining amount of time in the legislative session to process that gun bill. And that day, we killed it. Now, you know what? We wouldn't have had to do that if we had Governor Culp sitting in the governor's office, because he would have protected us with his veto. And how many of you believe that Governor Culp wouldn't have vetoed that bad bill? Do you know that it's been over 40 years? Caleb got up and said it's been in his lifetime. He's only 35. It's been over 40 years since we elected a Republican governor. The longest state in the union that has not elected a Republican governor. How many of you think it's time? Well, my seatmate got up and talked about the other major thing that we did this year. So we had over 100 amendments, 100 amendments on that anti-Second Amendment bill that we killed. Later in section, they brought up that sex ed bill. They brought it up, and this time, how many of you have ever heard of Todd Herman? Radio show host, fills in for Rush Limbaugh a lot. Well, I've been working with Todd and a number of other conservatives. We had over 130 amendments ready to go on that Second Amendment bill, but this time, on that sex ed bill. This time they were prepared, and for the first time in state history, which speaks to the illegitimacy of the bill, we ran 130 amendments that I personally sponsored. The most in state history. They've never seen it done before. And we were ready to kill the bill, and then they came up with some arbitrary rule and cut out 90% of the amendments and didn't hear them. It speaks to the validity of the bill, but it should also tell you what's coming if we don't get Governor Culp elected into office. The fight is real. 3 years ago, this very same speaker How many of you enjoy your First Amendment rights and your right to pray and freely pray? This speaker led a bill that I led a major fight against her on that sought for the first time in state history to give the private right of action to sue churches, to sue your pastors personally, to sue your elderships, and then go completely after the congregation. Should a pastor ever get up and speak biblical principles regarding LGBTQ topics? We defeated that bill. I lost every bill that I was running that year. I lost it on the altar of I sacrificed by running amendments against that to kill it. We pulled that out, and she's never forgiven me. Just earlier this week, she dropped another $70,000 in the campaign account against me because she cannot stand that a constitutional conservative exists on the Puget Sound that's right next to her district. And it's people like you that are going to stand up and start to tell her no more. And it begins with getting Loren Culp elected to governor. So I'm done speaking, other than to say, how many of you want to bring common sense back to Olympia? We're about to bring Loren up. I want you to say it with me. How many of you want to? Let's say it with me. Bring common sense back to Olympia. You give me an amen. Loren Culp coming. God bless
This is our time, we the people. All of us together are going to send common sense to Olympia and lead Washington's comeback. Are you with me? Absolutely fantastic. Look around you. Look at all the people here. Have you ever seen a crowd like this show up for Jay Inslee? He does not support we the people. He supports special interests, yeah? I'm not running for governor because I woke up one day and thought, well, you know, I'd really like to be a politician. I am not. I am running because I was asked to run by we the people. That is why. How many of you have been to a Culp campaign rally before? All right, we have a lot of new people. So I will introduce myself to you, tell you a little bit about my history, why I'm running, what led me down this path, and then we can talk about some issues. Does that sound good? Yeah. And that is not a UFO flying above us. So I'm a lifelong resident of Washington State. I was born and raised here. I love this state. It is my home. It is our home, right? I grew up in a small farming community called Chimacum, Washington. It's right outside of Port Townsend in Jefferson County. My dad was a deputy sheriff for the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. And I went through grade school, junior high, and my freshman year of high school, my dad got out of law enforcement and they moved us to the small mountain town called Republic. Has anybody been to Republic? It's a very beautiful little mountain town founded on gold mining and timber. And that's where I went to high school. That's where I met my high school sweetheart, Barb. We've been married for 43 years this year. We have 2 grown sons and 7 grandkids that live in this state, right down by the Olympia area. So Barb is looking forward to visiting with the grandkids every day after Inauguration Day, and Jay Inslee gets his ass out of there. At the age of 19, I joined the United States Army. I served in the world-famous 101st Airborne Division. I was do we have any veterans or active duty with us tonight? Thank you for your service. Give them a hand. I will honor our law enforcement and our military and veterans every single day as your next governor. Guaranteed. So I also went to the drill sergeant school at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, where I helped to turn civilians into soldiers. I served 1 year overseas in South Korea, and I went through the Non-Commissioned Officers Academy while I was with the 101st Airborne Division, and I was an honor graduate of that leadership school. I was also the honor graduate of my advanced individual training after basing. I didn't choose the path of going to college. I chose the path of the real world. After I served 4 years in the United States military, I went to work in the trades. I learned how to run a business from my dad, who was running a contracting business at the time, and other people taught me the trades. I learned how to frame houses and do concrete foundations and driveways. And after working for other people for 4 years, in 1988 I started my own business right out of Olympia, because that's where we moved to after we left the military. I started that business from nothing. And just to let you know how nothing I'm talking about, I bought a 1977 Datsun pickup truck from my grandpa for $600 on payments. Yes, true story. And I had 1 employee, but I was free. I was realizing my American dream. I was building a future for my family. And I ran that business for over 20 years, working right out of Olympia. I built that company up to where I had multiple trucks, multiple crews, doing jobs all around Puget Sound. And after 20 years, I decided that I was going to realize my childhood dream of becoming a police officer. So like I said, when I was young, my dad was a deputy sheriff. I had a lot of respect for him and his friends who were in law enforcement, and that was my childhood dream. And so at the age of 49, I talked to Barb and I said, you know, if I wait any longer, I'm going to be too old. And she looked at me and said, well, you're kind of too old now. But I applied for the job at the age of 49. I got hired in the city of Republic, and I went to the police academy with a class that was about half my age. A lot of them called me Grandpa. But I made it through. I became a police officer, realized my childhood dream. I've been a patrol officer. I've been a sergeant for the force. I was a narcotics detective for over 3 years, working with the North Central Washington Narcotics Task Force. I've been a canine handler, and for the last 4 years, I've been the chief of police in Republic. It's very rewarding work to protect good citizens and put criminals in jail where they belong, right? We have got to return law and order to the state of Washington. Are you with me? So I was serving the citizens where I work, going about my duties. And you remember back in 2018, an anti-gun initiative passed in this state, right? 1639. It made it against the law for military-age young adults to buy a semi-automatic rifle, even a 10-22 Plinker rifle that most kids learn how to shoot with. They could not buy one. If they already owned one, they could not leave their property with that. And not only that, as if that's not bad enough, it made potential felons out of otherwise law-abiding citizens. If you had a criminal break into your home and steal a firearm and go out and commit a crime with that firearm, you as the homeowner could be charged with up to a felony for what that criminal did. The day after that initiative passed, I was asked by citizens if I was going to start arresting 18 to 21-year-olds who I saw with a semi-automatic rifle. And my answer to them was, no, I'm not going to do that because it would violate their God-given, constitutionally protected rights. And I took an oath of office to uphold and defend the Constitution. That oath is supposed to mean something. When you raise your right hand and you swear an oath to uphold and defend something, then you better keep your word, right? So many politicians take that oath when they take office. They have no clue what they're even taking an oath to. And they darn sure don't uphold it. But I know what that means. You know, we all know what the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution says, right? But a lot of people don't know about the Washington State Constitution because we're not taught it in school, which I want to see changed. Article 1, Section 24 of the Washington State Constitution says that no citizens... All right, no pressure, right? The right of the individual citizen to bear arms in defense of himself or the state shall not be impaired. That's one simple sentence. One simple sentence that apparently our Attorney General doesn't understand. Well, I know a lot of sixth graders that can tell him exactly what that means. The right of the individual citizen to bear arms in defense of himself or the state shall not be impaired. My stance got me on the national news. I had no idea that standing up for the citizens' rights and obeying your oath of office was an anomaly, but apparently it was. I did hundreds of radio and newspaper interviews all across this country because of my stance. I was on Fox News, on Fox and Friends. I was on Tucker Carlson's show. Yeah, we love Tucker, right? That led me to writing a book. In December of 2018, I wrote a book called American Cop. That was published on President's Day of 2019, and it went to #1 on Amazon in multiple categories, and it stayed there for weeks. That led me to being invited around the state to Republican Party Lincoln Day dinners, speaking to citizens groups at sportsman shows about our rights, about our responsibilities, about the duty of public servants to obey their oath and follow the Constitution. That led to people asking me to run for governor. Every weekend in the spring and into summer of 2019, I was speaking somewhere around this state. And more people were coming out to hear what I had to say and had read American Cop. And more people started asking me the same thing. We need you to run for governor. We need to kick Jay Inslee's ass out of office. We need somebody to stand up for citizens' rights. And so in July of 2019, I had a talk with Barb. We talked about our 2 grown sons and our 7 grandkids that live in this state. And that if I didn't jump in with both feet and help to turn this state around, I would regret it for the rest of my life. And I don't like to live with regret. So I had an announcement speech in the city park of Republic. About 120 people showed up. And I talked about some of the issues that the state's facing. Right? We all know what they are, right? The biggest one, it used to be all over the news, right? But other things have taken its place in the news cycle, and I'll get to those in a minute.
But this so-called homeless crisis, right, that's taking over everywhere. Right now, it did not used to be like this, right? When I was growing up in the 70s, when I was raising my kids in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't like this. Tent cities, garbage, dirty needles in our parks, everywhere. And it's getting worse, despite the fact that we are spending millions and millions of taxpayer dollars on this problem. But just like most politicians, Jay Inslee is not focusing on the core issue. And when I gave my announcement speech, I didn't call it a homeless crisis, because it's mostly not about homes. It's about an addiction and a mental health crisis in this state, right? You can go to places that are run by Democrats, cities like Seattle, King County, and you can have 7 or 8 grams of heroin on you and the police will not arrest you because the prosecutors will not prosecute. The left says that it's not compassionate to put an addict in jail. I have found exactly the opposite to be true. When I was a narcotics detective, we had a zero tolerance policy. If you have residue of heroin in a baggie in this state, it is a felony. And we would arrest them, they would go to jail, they'd see the judge, and the judge would give them a choice. They can go to treatment or they can go to prison. And most of them chose treatment. And we had a funny thing start happening. People would get their head clear, they'd get out of the fog. They would get a job, they'd get their kids back, and they would come up to me and give me a hug and thank me for saving their life. That's tough love, right? Left says that's not compassionate to put an addict in jail. It is not compassionate to leave an addict stuck in the cycle of addiction, living on the streets. It's exactly the opposite. And that is what attracts people to this state, to cities like Seattle, King County. People from all over the country are like, well, I'm using heroin, I'm going to keep being an addict, I'm going to go to places like that. That's why we've seen this big influx. People from all over the country flock to places like that are run by the Democrats and the far left ideology and allow people to stay in that cycle of addiction. That's why we've seen this big influx. It didn't used to be like this 10 or 15 years ago, but we're seeing it more and more and more, despite the fact we're spending millions. I went through a treatment homeless facility down in Longview not too long ago. And they used to take mostly state funding for this facility, right? They set it up to help that community because they were seeing an increase. People living on the street, people in addiction. But they were not getting a very high success rate, right? They were taking mostly state funding, and with the state funding comes the state rules. They had to be a zero threshold entry program where people could come and go as they please, very lax rules. They were getting single-digit success rates. The board of directors got together and said, this isn't working, we're not helping our community. And so they changed their rules, changed everything they do. They no longer take mostly state funding. They're funded by local businesses and donors in the community, and they put in their own rules. They now have a locked door with security cameras and security guards. They've got mental health professionals, drug addiction counselors, a daycare for family units when mom and dad are out looking for a job or going to counseling. And they've gone from single-digit success rate to 76% success. I want to take that model all across this state and quit wasting taxpayer dollars. But if you look at who these corporations are donating money to, you can see that it's a vicious money cycle, right? They donate to the Democrat Party and Jay Inslee's campaign, so it's no wonder it's not getting fixed. It's absolutely pathetic. We need to help those people. All of the people that are addicted to drugs or have mental health problems, they're not bad people. There are some in that criminal element, but a lot of them just made a bad choice, got stuck, got hooked, and they need tough love. They need a boot in the butt to get them headed down the right path, and I will push for that every single day. You know, the mental health, Western State Hospital lost its certification from the federal government under Jay Inslee's watch, right? Because it wasn't safe for the people there getting help. It wasn't safe for the staff. And despite several warnings from the federal government, Jay Inslee did not fix the problem, and it lost its certification. And along with that went millions and millions of taxpayer dollars from the federal government to run our mental health in this state. I can tell you from working on the streets that our mental health system in this state is absolutely garbage. I have gone to calls so many times where someone has tried to kill themselves. Take them to the hospital, they meet with a first level mental health counselor, and then that counselor decides whether they need more help. Obviously someone who's trying to kill themselves does. So they call around the state looking for a bed in a facility where this person can get a higher level of care. And 9 times out of 10, there's not a bed available, and they are just turned back out on the street. That's not compassion. That has to change, and I will work to change that. That's just piss poor governance by Jay Inslee. Does anybody here hunt or fish? Yes, okay, I'm at the right rally. Fishing in this state, you know, it used to be an entire industry, right? People would come here from all over the United States, all over different parts of the world because of our fisheries, right? Charter boats. I remember when I was a kid, the charter boat industry was huge. So I went out to Westport not too long ago. I talked to a group of people out there, and there used to be 300 charter boats in Westport alone, right? Every boat's got a captain and a crew making a living wage, and then all the support facilities on shore. You know, airlines, rental cars, gas stations, sporting goods, hotels. They've gone from 300 charter boats in Westport alone. I'm not talking about all the other ports and the river guides all across the state, but Westport alone, they went from 300 charter boats down to 28 because our fisheries are so bad. Does it take a brain surgeon to figure this out, right? There's 3 things that we need to do to fix our fisheries in the state. We need our hatcheries putting out 100% and build more hatcheries where we need them. If the fish aren't going out, they're not coming back. We need to take care of the overpopulated predators. Seals and sea lions piled up at the bottom of dams and mouths of rivers, and birds that eat smolt. That can't be allowed. We have to manage all of the wildlife in Washington state, and that includes predators. We need to work on the environment because salmon need clean gravel to spawn in. Those 3 things, and we will bring back that entire industry across this state. We will bring back that sport fishing, that food for Washington state families. It's just common sense, right? Unbelievable. I don't think there's any left in the governor's office, if there ever was any. Was there ever any? No. No. Who brings worm-filled apples to Eastern Washington? That's what a law degree will get you, apparently. That's what a practicing attorney who turned into a lifelong politician gets you, right? Tell me he didn't see those signs. Everybody sees those signs. For crying out loud, he was an attorney in Yakima. No, I didn't see the signs, sorry. And what? Give him a pass, right? Did you notice that? No problem, it's just a misdemeanor. How many of you think you'd get a pass from our Attorney General if you committed a misdemeanor, right? No. Do as I say, not as I do. That's Jay Inslee's way, apparently. So how about how things were handled downtown Seattle? Chaz Chop, whatever the heck they called it, right? The riots that are still continuing to this day. We see what's going on down in Portland. We see what's going on in Seattle. Inslee didn't even know that they'd taken over part of Seattle. How clueless are you? Have another apple. So the local law enforcement, things started getting out of control down there, right? Obviously. And the local law enforcement and state patrol called for backup. And so the governor is the commander-in-chief of the Washington State National Guard. So when local law enforcement and state patrol called for backup, Jay Inslee sent in the National Guard. But what did he do first? He disarmed them. He sent our young men and women in uniform into a violent situation without the means to protect themselves or other people. And then everybody was pulled out shortly after that, and they started negotiating, right? There's people that own businesses in there, people that work there, people that live there. Those neighborhoods were absolutely being terrorized. Now, I'm all for the Constitution. We all have a First Amendment right to peaceably assemble, attend the church of our choice, freedom of the press, right? But when you start getting violent, when you start looting stores and burning buildings and cars and throwing rocks and frozen water bottles at our police, that is no longer a First Amendment right. That is a crime, and it's called a riot, and it needs to be shut down. The United States government doesn't negotiate with foreign terrorists, and the state of Washington should never negotiate with domestic terrorists either. Absolutely ruining this state. Seattle used to be a place where I went as a kid. My parents took me to Seattle, to the Space Needle and other places. I took my kids there in the 80s. I wouldn't take a family down there today. It's absolutely disgusting. They turn a blind eye to crime, but lock down law-abiding citizens. So this is not the first riot that we've had, right? So when I'm governor and we have another situation like that starts turning violent, I will have the National Guard spun up and staged close to where the violence is happening. And they will have the means to protect themselves and other people. And they will go in there within minutes and not hours and days like with the current governor, and they will help the local law enforcement to arrest the criminals and put their ass in jail where they belong. That's how you deal with a violent situation. That's how you deal with a riot. You don't appease, you don't negotiate. If you're doing what they were doing, you get arrested and you go to jail. And everyone else would be told to disperse, or they would go to jail as well. That's how you deal with a riot. Did you guys hear Jay Inslee's talking about releasing more prisoners from prison? Yeah, as if the thousands he's already released aren't enough, right? Because of COVID, right? The judge told the state of Washington they need to have a plan to keep prisoners safe. So what was Jay Inslee's plan? Oh, well, let's just open the gate, let them out. There are almost 1,000 felons out of prison early, and about half of them have re-offended and created more victims. Total incompetence. Lock down law-abiding citizens and let felons out of jail. And now he's talking about letting more out. Did you guys hear about that so-called glitch in the Department of Corrections computer system? Jay Inslee knew about this for a long time but didn't fix it. And so about 3,000 felons were released not too long ago from our prisons. 2 murders have happened because of that. Countless other crimes have been committed. And this is a person who says he cares about the citizens of Washington State. I don't think so. Actions speak louder than words. It's unacceptable. So, this virus, right? COVID-19. This is a real virus, right? People have died. That's horrible. 1 death is too many, right? But what did our governor do when this virus started hitting? He decided who's going to go to work and who's not going to go to work, right? Lock us down. We need to flatten the curve. And here we are 6 months later. Where's the curve? It never happened, right? Our hospitals were never overrun. This is a virus that has killed less than 1% of the population, and 60% of those that died were in nursing homes with pre-existing conditions. But he's locked everybody down, and he decided who's essential and who's not essential. We are all essential. If you owned a big box store or an abortion clinic or a pot store, you could stay open, according to our governor. But if you had a church or a gun store or a mom and pop cafe or a salon or barber shop, you had to shut down. Does anybody believe that the virus knows which buildings it can go into and which it can't? Doesn't make any sense, right? Doesn't make any sense. He has shut down businesses all across this state, and a lot of them will never come back. It's people's life savings that are gone, people's jobs that are gone, because he decided. He decided who's going to shut down and who's not. The virus doesn't know, just because the governor said so. A barber shop or a salon can operate just as safely as any other store that he left open, right? If you had government construction, if you were working on government construction project, you could go to work. But if you were running a construction company on a residential project, you had to stay home. Does that make any sense? No. Common sense is not in the governor's office. This is not the first virus that we've had, right? We've had bird flu, swine flu, Ebola, they come and they go. When I'm governor and the next virus comes around, I will have press conferences with the medical professionals to explain to everyone what's going on, what we should do to protect ourselves, our family, and our business, what might happen if we don't follow the medical advice, and as governor, make sure the supply chain is as open as possible for the equipment that's needed. And then let free individual citizens decide what's best for themselves, their family, and their business. That's how you are the governor over free people. That's how you're the governor over free Americans. We are all Americans. We have our rights. We have our freedoms. Our forefathers and our military veterans fought and died to give us the freedoms that we have in this country. And here we are in 2020 with a mini dictator sitting in the governor's office thinking he's going to tell each individual one of us what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and what we're going to wear. That's not freedom. I am all about individual freedom and liberty. We need our government and our governor to abide by the rule of law, which is the Constitution. The Constitution is the rule book for our government, right? It doesn't tell us what we can and can't do. It tells the government what it can and can't do. When we get our government and a governor who will stay in the lane and abide by the rule of law and the Constitution, then everyone is protected equally. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. It doesn't matter your age, your income, your education. Everyone is protected equally under the law when it's followed. And I will have a firm grasp on the Constitution and the rule of law. I will be the leader of this state, right? But not the leader of you. You will lead you. I will run the executive branch of the state government and let you be your leader for your family and your business. That's how this country was set up. I have 3 rules for any bill that comes across my desk that the legislature wants signed into law. Number 1, is it constitutional? If it is not constitutional, then I will not sign it. Number 2, will it help the citizens of Washington State? Because I'm not working for any special interest group other than we the people. And number 3, can we afford it without any new taxes? Article 1, Section 1 of the Washington State Constitution, the very first thing the founders of Washington wrote in the rule book for our government, says that the power is inherent in the people and government is there to protect citizens' rights. Is that beautiful or what? That's the very first thing they thought of when they sat down and wrote the rule book for our government. The power is inherent in the people, and government is there to protect citizens' rights. We don't learn that in school, do we? We need to. Article 1, Section 7. No citizen shall be disturbed in their private affairs. Have we been disturbed in our private affairs lately or what? I don't know about you, but I'm sick of it. I cannot wait to kick his ass out of office in November and take this government back for we the people. We the people are in charge of this state. We the people are in charge of our lives and our businesses and our families. How about that sex ed bill, right? What a bunch of garbage. That needs to be voted out in November. So I want to tell you a quick story about something that happened in my life. And unlike most politicians, this is a true story. When I was serving the United States military, Barbara and I were married. We had 2 little boys, Nick and Adam. Nick was about 2.5, Adam was about 1.5. And I was given orders to go overseas on a hardship tour to South Korea. And a hardship tour it's too dangerous to bring the family. So I had to leave my little boys and my wife for just a little bit over a year. And I went to South Korea. I was stationed up close to the DMZ. I was in the 2nd Infantry Division. And I spent a year over there. So every year they have a joint military exercise. Every branch of the South Korean military, every branch of the United States military gets together and does a joint military exercise all across the nation of South Korea. And I was in the Army, so when we traveled from one point to another, we were in convoys of military trucks and jeeps. And there are little villages dotted along the dirt roads that we were traveling on, surrounded by rice paddies. And I was a 22, 23-year-old sergeant in the Army. And as the convoy would get close to these villages, all of the people that lived there, little kids, old people, they would all come running up to the edge of the road, and they'd line the edge of the road as the military convoy full of American soldiers went by. And they would be waving with one hand, they'd have a big smile on their face, and in the other hand they would have little American flags that they would wave. And it made me so proud to be an American. These people didn't care what race we were. They didn't care our income, our education, or our gender. They just knew that there was Americans in those vehicles, and we saved them from communism and continued to protect them against the communist North. It made me very proud to be an American, and that has never left me. And we need to remember that here at home. It doesn't matter what your race is. It doesn't matter the color of your skin or your gender or your education or your income. We are all Americans. And we need to remember that here at home. Don't let the left divide us by those things which they try very, very hard to do. We need to stand up for our freedoms and our liberties and our rights, and stand up like our founders did, like we are fighting for the soul of our state, because we are. Are you with me?
Yeah!
I need your help. Share our Facebook page. Share our website, Culp for Governor. I will be right over here if anybody wants to come up. I'd love to shake your hand and meet you in person. Thank you all very much, and God bless America.
It's in my